So, the summer 2023 anime season has been airing for a while now, and I've been spending a significant chunk of my free time watching every single new show that's been coming out, and in this video, I want to share some of my thoughts on each series and hopefully help you decide which one of them are worth your time. To begin with, why don't we start with everyone's favorite genre, the isekai shows, because this season we've got 6 of them for you to choose from. Now, are any of these actually worth watching, or is it just the typical generic isekai trash we see every season? Well, that's for you to decide, but for me, the first show I watched in this genre was Am I Actually the Strongest? And well, my first impressions of this show was that it definitely isn't the strongest show this season, because oh boy, this show just couldn't be any more generic. We have the typical degenerate shut-in protagonist who's been reincarnated into a fantasy world with overpowered magic abilities, and a lot of crazy things happen in just the first 10 minutes. Right after our protagonist gets reborn into the kingdom's royal family, they mismeasure his power levels to be much lower than his actual level and decide to abandon him in the forest to not bring shame to the royal family. There, our protagonist encounters a monster who tries to eat him for an easy meal, but gets defeated by our protagonist and agrees to become his servant. Here's where the show gets weird though. Our protagonist realizes he hasn't eaten anything yet since being born and asks his new servant for some breast milk. So the servant then transforms into a fox girl and tells our protagonist, who is still an infant, to breed with her so that she can begin producing breast milk for him. Thankfully, this doesn't actually happen, as the noble caught wind of the situation and came to rescue and adopt the baby into his family. And really, most of the next few episodes revolve around our protagonist using his overpowered abilities to help his new father resolve various issues in their lands, such as dealing with bandits and kidnappings. If you're just looking for an isekai show with an overpowered MC where you can just turn your brain off and enjoy, or to watch on your second monitor, then this show could be worth giving a try. Speaking of isekai overpowered MCs, as this next show's title explicitly states, my unique skill makes me OP even at level 1 also gives us yet another overpowered MC, but this time it isn't his combat skills, as our protagonist wakes up and discovers all his combat stats are actually rated F, the lowest of lows. However, his unique skill is that his drop stats are all rated S instead, which significantly improves the dropped items of enemies he defeats. So at this point you may think, finally an isekai show where the MC doesn't just defeat all his enemies in one hit. Maybe we can finally get some action where the MC would require some creative strategies to overcome his weaknesses in combat. Well, unfortunately, shortly after it is revealed that his drop skills also allows him to receive permanent combat stat boosting items, which would eventually also turn all his combat skills to super strong levels as well. Overall, this show was just okay. It's a very laid back show that doesn't take itself too seriously and isn't afraid of being weird at times. For example, one episode our MC ran into this bunny girl in the dungeon who appears out of nowhere and bonks him on the head, saying how she hates low levels like him, but minutes later she follows him back to his house to say this. What is going on? Though in terms of weirdness, there's probably nothing weirder than this show this season. Reborn as a vending machine, now I wander the dungeon. Just when I thought anime couldn't get any weirder. Now this MC definitely drew the short end of the stick. Our last two MCs both got super overpowered skills or powers, but our man from this show literally got reborn as a vending machine where he can't even talk or walk by himself. Though for our MC maybe this isn't too bad for him, as in his past life he was actually an avid lover of vending machines. In fact, he loved them so much the reason why he died in the first place and got reincarnated was because he tried to rescue one from falling off a truck. Now our MC isn't just a run-of-the-mill vending machine either, since he can spend points to upgrade his capabilities, change his stock, and even unlock combat skills like deploying a shield to protect himself. But here's the catch, those very points also power him and keeps him alive. If he runs out of points and shuts down, it's game over. I have to say, the first episode of this show definitely turned out way more enjoyable than I expected. Maybe because of the crazy premise, or because of all the creative methods the author manages to pull off and keep the plot going for a stationary character. You know, maybe becoming the very thing you love isn't so bad after all. Unfortunately, past the first episode, the show does start to feel repetitive as every episode basically repeats the formula of new characters being introduced in different settings and getting surprised from seeing a vending machine for the first time in their lives. If you aren't as passionate about vending machines as our previous protagonist is and prefer a show about making sweets instead, you might want to consider watching Sweet Reincarnation. Another isekai this season focusing on the MC who brings his past life's knowledge as a patissier to a new world where he is reborn as the child of a noble. What's even more amusing is that his father's name is Casserole and named him Pastry. Talk about a tasty family tree. In this world, magic also seems to exist, and our MC Pastry finds himself having his magic levels measured in his coming of age ceremony. To everyone's surprise, his magic level turns out to be extraordinarily high, but thankfully hasn't turned this show into another isekai about an overpowered MC. Personally, I enjoyed this show a bit more than the previous ones I mentioned earlier, but I have to say the biggest disappointment of this show was the lack of sweet making despite the show's title and our MC's constant obsession with it. In fact, he's only made a single apple pie in the entire 6 episodes that I've watched, and most of the show really has been more about our MC making use of his past life's knowledge to come up with unique solutions to help his father solve political issues between other nobles, which, to be fair, was still decently interesting in its own right. Up next in isekai shows, we have the Great Cleric, and this time our MC is skipping the infantile stage and has been reincarnated straight as an adult. Here, our main character picks healer as his starting job, which gets shortly revealed after to be very valuable in this world and receives preferential treatment due to the power they possess. However, with great power comes great responsibility, and not all healers have chosen to remain noble. Some have become corrupt and began charging adventurers exorbitant prices for their services, tainting the reputation of healers as a whole and making adventurers afraid of going to healers for help even when gravely injured to avoid massive debts. And so begins our protagonist's journey to become an honorable healer while working to restore the positive image of healers that has been tarnished by the corrupt ones. Surprisingly, of all isekai shows I've mentioned in this video, aside from the vending machine guy, this is probably our only non-overpowered isekai MC of the season. But my biggest problem with this show is that there really isn't much going on in terms of plot. I've watched until episode 5 and it really just feels like a really long training arc without any real payoff, where it feels like the MC has been stuck training his combat and healer skills in the Adventurers Guild's basement for over a year, with very little things happening in between. Overall, a decent show with a simple and easy to understand plot, but lacks the memorable or interesting moments to really keep me engaged. Finally, our last isekai of this season features a female protagonist. The most heretical last boss queen from Villainess to Savior is an otome isekai that follows the familiar trope of a female main character transforming into the main villainess of a game she once played and turning a new leaf to become a good person. In the original timeline of this game, the villainess is depicted as wicked and engages in despicable acts. She tricks her servant into signing a contract of fealty, effectively turning him into her slave, and makes his life a living nightmare by forcing him to commit horrendous acts, including the murder of his own mother. Even her past mates have faced the death penalty for minor mistakes. However, in our protagonist's current timeline, since she's in control, none of these atrocities actually take place. Yet she constantly finds herself overcome with emotions, crying and worrying about the potential events that unfolded in the game she played but does not actually happen in her current story. Though her over-emotional side seems to be used as a plot device to make some of the characters fall in love with her. Just like the other otome isekai shows you may have seen in the previous anime seasons, a lot of the plot revolves around our MC making use of their knowledge of the game's future events to their benefits. If you enjoy reverse harems and watch other shows in this genre, like My Next Life as a Villainess or I'm the Villainess so I'm taming the final boss, you'll likely find enjoyment in this series as well. If you're not a fan of harem and just want a classic romance story, well, My Happy Marriage might just be for you. But don't let the title fool you. This show's first episode takes us on an emotional roller coaster and very much resembles the classic Cinderella story. Taking place in an alternative 19th century Japan, our story begins with our protagonist Mio, who tragically loses her mother at a young age. From that point on, her life takes a turn for the worse as her father introduces his new partner and her daughter Kaya into their lives. Mio is subjected to mistreatment and servitude, while Kaya becomes the favorite one, inheriting the family's psychic abilities. Mio's existence slowly becomes that of a servant over the years, enduring a life filled with hardship and neglect. However, one day everything changes when Mio is arranged to marry Kudo, a military captain known for his cruelty, rumored to have driven away all his potential wives. Now, if you saw the title of the show and came looking for a happy marriage story, well, there's most likely going to be one for sure towards the later parts of the series, but be warned that the initial few episodes focuses a lot on the drama between the characters and our heroine overcoming her depression after years of mistreatment. If you're a fan of romance, this well-directed and beautiful series is definitely one to watch. If you're up for a romance story much more light-hearted, cute, and wholesome, I highly recommend Saint Cecilia and Pastor Lawrence as well. Cecilia is the saint of a church who provides counseling to the local townsfolk. She is highly respected and looked up on by many of the kids around town as the role model of modesty and good morals. But in reality, behind closed doors she is actually an absolutely relatable slob who loves lazing around, a side which she only reveals to Lawrence. However, it seems like we're dealing with a classic case of denseness here. Despite the saint's overt expressions of love, our protagonist fails to comprehend her feelings time and time again. Overall, this series was super cute and well animated. If you're looking for an endearing slice of life rom-com experience that will leave you feeling warm and fuzzy inside, then this show is for you. Looking for a rom-com set in a modern setting instead? The Girl I Like Forgot Her Glasses follows the story of a teenage boy who witnesses his crush forgetting her glasses one day, giving him an opportunity as her classmate to step in and help her with various tasks throughout the day, such as sharing his textbook for class, locating her shoes from their lockers, and much more. Plot-wise, there isn't much to say as the show really feels like one big compilation of the awkward interactions between the two, with a lot of one-sided blushing from the MC and the girl being completely oblivious to it without her glasses. Overall, I'd say it was an okay series. It had its moments, but personally, didn't quite click for me. The show's formula with the girl constantly forgetting her glasses definitely started to get stale for me pretty quickly in the first few episodes. Speaking of awkwardness, there's nothing more awkward this season than this pair we have in My Tiny Senpai. And boy, those are definitely not tiny at all. This rom-com mostly revolves around a male office worker and his cute, short female senpai, focusing on their interactions and teasing moments at work. Think Uzaki-chan, but in an office setting instead. Though despite the characters being adults, they act more like middle schoolers, blushing and getting embarrassed at every interaction with the opposite sex. Honestly, if you came here looking for something similar to My Senpai's Annoying, I hate to break it to you, but My Tiny Senpai doesn't quite live up to that level. The humor didn't really click for me and the interactions between the characters weren't particularly interesting. Overall, it just didn't grab my attention, so I'll probably be skipping this one. Up next, I want to talk about The Dreaming Boy is a Realist, and boy is this one strange. At first, I read the title and expected something like Rascal Does Not Dream of Bunny Girl Senpai, but what I got was more akin to my teen romantic comedy Snafu on a budget. They even have a one-to-one reference to the show in the opening sequence. Set in a high school, the story revolves around Sajo, a boy who has been openly stalking his crush, Natsukawa, since the start of high school. Natsukawa constantly tells him to stop following her around. However, one day while on the way to school, something peculiar happens. Sajo nearly gets hit by a soccer ball, and static electricity from the ball seems to jolt his brain, leading to a sudden realization that he's been behaving like a creep and needs to stop following Natsukawa around. But here's the twist. Natsukawa actually likes Sajo and doesn't mind his presence, but she struggles to express her feelings due to her tsundere nature. As if that isn't strange enough, occasionally random girl seems to pretty much show up out of nowhere throughout the series, asking the MC for help with the various troubles as the story struggles to juggle between the MC's problem-solving segments while trying to resolve his problematic relationship with his childhood crush. I must say that direction of this series feels messy. Given its confusing, scattered storyline and lack of direction, I've decided to skip this one. Our last rom-com anime this season is also an ecchi one called Temple, and it's made by the same person who drew the art for the Grand Blue series. And boy, this might just be the most shameless and perverted anime we've seen so far in 2023. Our main character Akimitsu has always been told by his father that no one can live alone. However, Akimitsu is determined to prove his father wrong and to avoid becoming a creep like him by avoiding all interactions with women despite the numerous temptations in his daily college life. However, a chance encounter with a young woman fills his mind with impure thoughts that he struggles to contain. He decides to take drastic measures and become a Buddhist monk, renouncing his worldly desires. But things take an unexpected turn when he arrives at the temple he plans to devote himself to, only to find that it has transformed into a nunnery full of women. And the same young woman he encountered before is there too. As if that wasn't enough, Akimitsu discovers that his father actually owes a considerable debt to this temple. In order to repay his family's debts, he must remain in this temple surrounded by women and work off the money he owed. Temple delivers a comedic and ecchi romp as Akimitsu finds himself in hilarious and compromising situations within the nunnery. The show explores themes of personal growth, unexpected relationships, and the challenges of navigating a world filled with temptation. If you enjoy ecchi rom-coms, then this series is for you. If one ecchi show isn't enough to satisfy your needs, you might also want to check out Classroom for Heroes, a classic battle school fantasy harem show. In this world, a legendary hero and a fearsome demon lord once engaged in a fierce battle that resulted in both of them losing their powers. Fast forward to the present, the kingdom has established a hero academy to train students for the ongoing fight against the demons. But here's the twist. In the middle of the school year, a seemingly carefree student joins the academy. Little do his classmates know, this new student is actually the legendary hero himself, whom was transferred in by the kingdom's king, who hopes that by training in the academy, the hero of the past will regain his lost powers to rejoin the fight against the demons. If you're a fan of this genre and enjoy watching an overpowered protagonist alongside a group of students navigate their way through training, battles, and perhaps even some romantic entanglements, then this show might just be what you're looking for. However, if you're seeking something groundbreaking or unique, it's best to keep your expectations in check. Liar Liar is another battle school fantasy show that might be worth checking out this season. Our story unfolds on Academy Island, a unique location where everything is settled through games, wagered with the stars each student holds. The coveted title of 7 stars is bestowed only upon the strongest students. Enter Hiroto, a transfer student who barely passed the entrance exam with abysmal scores. By a twist of fate, Hiroto accidentally defeats the reigning empress, who also happens to possess a secret red star. A star that grants its user the extraordinary ability to tell a single lie to their opponents. However, there's a catch. The empress he defeated is none other than the granddaughter of the current director of the Academy Island, a formidable individual who will stop at nothing to protect their family name. If the director were to discover that Hiroto, a mere 0-star low-scoring student, defeated the director's granddaughter, dire consequences would surely follow. Sensing the predicament, the headmistress of the academy proposes a solution to Hiroto. Utilize his newfound red star power to fabricate the illusion of being a 7-star student. This way the director's wrath may be tempered, as his granddaughter would have been defeated by a student of the same ranking. Reluctantly, Hiroto agrees to this plan, leveraging his special power to become the pseudo-strongest in the school. And so, a mind game of lies and bluffs begins. Liar Liar exudes a similar vibe and setting to Classroom of the Elite, albeit with a protagonist whose personality stands in stark contrast to that show's protagonist, Ayano Koji. As an avid fan of mind games and strategic narratives, I thoroughly enjoyed the start of the series and eagerly anticipate witnessing Hiroto's struggle to maintain his charade as the strongest, all while being one of the weakest students who's completely clueless about what lies ahead. Moving on to the next fantasy show of the season, Helck takes us into a world where humans and demons once waged a war that resulted in the humans emerging as victorious when their hero class defeated the Demon Lord. In order to find someone to take his place, the demons organized a tournament and our main character, Helck, decides to participate. But here's where it gets interesting, as Helck is not only human, he is actually also the hero class's brother. And fun fact, their names put together actually references the name Hercules in Japanese. In the tournament, Helck easily defeats all his opponents and catches the attention of the judges, who fears that a human might actually win and assume the role of the Demon King. The judges start resorting to various antics to hinder Helck's progress, but our protagonist continues to dominate the tournament over the next few episodes. While the series presents a light-hearted and humorous approach to this whole situation, there's actually an intriguing darker undertone at play with an interesting reveal later on, which I won't spoil here. In the background, we witness unsettling events such as the disappearance of humans from their cities and the invasion of the demon capital by mysterious winged knights. Plot-wise, there are still many questions left unanswered in the story at this moment, making it difficult for me to judge. The show makes use of a lot of the similar tropes from classic gag comedy series, which you will either love or hate. Personally, I enjoyed watching the first 2 episodes and plan to give Helck a few more episodes before passing my final judgment, especially considering the positive feedback from the original manga readers who speak highly of the series. Speaking of heroes, Level 1 Demon Lord and One Room Hero provides us with a hilarious twist on the classic hero and Demon Lord dynamic. 10 years ago, the mighty hero Max emerged victorious in his battle against the formidable Demon Lord. In a bid to regain his lost power, the Demon Lord entered a deep slumber, but upon awakening decades later, he finds himself transformed into a chibi female version of his once fearsome self. The Demon Lord decides to pay a visit to his former nemesis, Max, only to discover the hero living in a rundown one-room apartment, having given up on his heroic ambitions and opting for a sleazy lifestyle instead. Surprisingly, the Demon Lord decides to move in with Max, aiming to assist his old enemy in reclaiming his status as a formidable opponent so that he can challenge him to an epic battle once more. Level 1 Demon Lord and One Room Hero brings an interesting twist to the hero and Demon Lord trope, infusing it with comedy and unexpected camaraderie moments. All in all, I found the first 2 episodes to be fairly enjoyable, and I'm excited to see how the dynamic between the Demon Lord and the hero will develop. If you're looking for a lighthearted and comedic take on the hero genre, this show is definitely worth checking out. Up next, we have The Reign of the Seven Spellblades. Set in a similar setting to Hogwarts in Harry Potter, this show takes us to an academy where students train to master the art of magic. However, the main difference is that instead of wands, they use swords to cast magic. The first 2 episodes definitely felt kind of slow and generic, as the series focused on introducing all the various characters and the setting of the story. But I kept watching due to the high praise from the original light novel readers' comments on this series, and the story definitely picked up a bit with some fairly well animated action later on. The story primarily follows a group of 6 students as they take magic lessons and encounter various troubles throughout their daily studies in the academy. Though one girl from the main cast, Nanao, definitely stands out more than the others with her Japanese-style clothing and combat style. On top of her bizarre powers which transforms her hair white when she gets serious in combat. If you're a fan of magical academy settings and character-driven stories, this show might be worth a shot. Personally, I will continue to watch this series and keeping an eye on how the plot unfolds, if not to see if it really is as good as the light novel readers make it out to be. If academy or school fantasy settings aren't your thing, Ayaka might be the show you are looking for instead. With some themes similar to Jujutsu Kaisen, this anime original series takes us to a modern world where individuals utilize their magical powers to combat Ayakashi, supernatural creatures that pose a threat to humanity. Our main character possesses a potent water-bending ability capable of defeating these Ayakashi. However, he lacks control over his powers, having been sent away from his birthplace at a young age, where these sorcerers train. In the first episode, we witness his graduation from middle school in a normal city, completely oblivious to the existence of Ayakashi and his own extraordinary abilities. However, circumstances lead him back to his birthplace where he has to learn how to make use of his powers to combat against the Ayakashi. Unfortunately, while Ayaka's premise shows promise, the first few episodes failed to captivate me with its uninteresting characters and its action scenes just felt lacking. If you don't have anything better to watch and really want a new show featuring some supernatural battles and magical training, this show might be worth a try. Speaking of the supernatural, nothing this season is less natural than the Masterful cat is depressed again today, featuring a huge bipedal black cat. Now don't let the title fool you. This show isn't solely about a depressed cat, but rather the heartwarming story of an office worker named Saku and her extraordinary feline companion. Saku's life takes an unexpected turn when she discovers an abandoned cat on the street. Initially, the cat appears ordinary, but much to Saku's surprise, it rapidly grows into a giant feline who walks on two legs. This oversized cat quickly becomes Saku's faithful companion, lending a helpful paw with household chores and even cooking. Plot-wise, there isn't much to say about this series as the show primarily focuses on Saku's daily life alongside her colossal feline friend. One aspect of the show that truly shines is Saku's endearing personality and her delightful interactions with her larger-than-life cat. Their bond and quirky situations they find themselves in bring a sense of joy and warmth to the screen. If you're a cat lover and enjoy the relaxing vibes of a slice-of-life anime, The Masterful is depressed again today is definitely a delightful choice for you. If a giant cat wasn't weird enough for you, Yohane the Parhelion, Sunshine in the Mirror, takes the fantasy elements up a notch in a land with fairies, magic, and even a talking dog. Now this show is actually from the Love Live series, which I didn't realize at first. For those unfamiliar, the Love Live series is known for its cute girls doing cute things with idol activities mixed in. However, Yohane the Parhelion stands out as a standalone series within Love Live. While it doesn't require prior knowledge or viewing of the previous Love Live shows, there are definitely references to its prior version, Love Live Sunshine. Our main character Yohane left her hometown at 14 to pursue her dream of becoming a singer in the big city. After 2 years of failed auditions and financial struggles, she reluctantly returns to her small hometown, much to her dismay, as she actually despises her hometown, viewing it as a dull place with no opportunities. She refuses to interact with the other residents and even her own childhood friend, as she believes she is destined for a much more exciting and entertaining life. However, when she starts singing again in a childhood stage of hers, she suddenly discovers that she has magic powers. From that point on, the show starts to get even crazier, from magical girl Power Rangers, defeating rampaging evil deers, to rowing a boat to visit and becoming friends with the Demon Lord. Overall, this series was just okay for me. I felt like it was trying to do and introduce too many things at once, which left me feeling more and more confused as the episodes went by. But for those of you who are already Love Live fans, you're likely going to watch and enjoy this series regardless. In another world about another girl also looking to escape her present boring life, Atelier Reza tells the story of an adventurous young girl seeking to escape her current lifestyle. Despite Reza's family being farmers, she has never shown interest in farming and constantly finds new ways to escape her current life by going on adventures despite the town's tradition of forbidding villagers from leaving the island. However, one day Reza escapes the island on a boat she found to go on an adventure with her two childhood friends and finds herself attacked by some monsters, but was thankfully rescued by a traveling alchemist and his bodyguard. After seeing the amazing inventions created by the alchemist, she seeks to be his apprentice and discovers she has a talent for alchemy, and so begins her journey of becoming an alchemist. Now the name of this series might ring a bell for some of you because it's from the long-running Atelier game series, and the Reza trilogy has gained significant popularity over the past few years, becoming their #1 selling game of all time. It's no wonder they decided to make an anime adaptation of this game. If you're familiar with the game series, there isn't much to see here. The anime follows the story of the first Reza game, and let's be honest, the story has never been the main selling point of the Atelier games. The series is renowned for its cute female protagonist and is focused on gathering materials and synthesizing new items as an alchemist. The animation in Atelier Reza is decent, with a notable emphasis on Reza's thighs. In fact, her nickname is Thighza for a reason. Personally, I'll be skipping this one. Having already played all the Reza games, I don't feel the series offers anything beyond what the game already provides. If you're truly interested in experiencing the Atelier series, I recommend playing the game instead for a more immersive and engaging experience. Looking for a fantasy focused on some more mature themes instead? Undead Girl Murder Farce is one of my top contenders for the best new anime of the season. Set in an alternative 19th century world, our story takes place in a world where monsters from both Eastern and Western mythology exist. Some even coexist with humans in society. Our main character, Tsugaru, is a half-human, half-oni hybrid who works in a freak show, participating in cage battles against yokai monsters for the audience's entertainment. However, Tsugaru's unique identity wasn't by choice. He was forcefully turned into a half-human, half-oni when he was young by a mysterious man. Ever since then, the Oni part of him has been slowly eating away parts of his humanity, which would one day result in the loss of his sanity. One day, Tsugaru notices a mysterious maid discreetly tailing him, clutching a peculiarly covered birdcage. Driven by curiosity, he confronts the maid, and the tense confrontation ensues. To his astonishment, the birdcage contains the living, speaking head of a girl named Aya, who reveals herself to be the sole immortal being in this world, having lived for almost a millennium while retaining the appearance of a 14-year-old girl. Her extraordinary power as part of the immortal race allows her to regenerate from almost any wound. Tragically, she fell victim to an Oni who possesses the ability to nullify regeneration, leaving her head as the only part of her body. Taken captive by the same mysterious man whom Tsugaru suspects to be responsible for his half-Oni transformation, Aya's plea to Tsugaru is simple. She wishes for him to use his Oni powers to end her suffering. In return, Aya offers to share fragments of her immortal abilities with Tsugaru, granting him a prolonged lifespan and the means to resist the overpowering Oni side within him. However, Tsugaru refuses this offer and proposes an alternative plan: to join forces and track down the elusive man they both seek, the one responsible for their intertwined destinies. Despite the heavy exposition in the first episode, I found myself completely engaged in the story. The clever use of cinematic framing and the chemistry between the characters captivated me throughout. Now the next few episodes of this series plays out differently as our pair travels around the world solving mysteries and crimes committed by various individuals, with Aya being the brains and Tsugaru being the brawn. Overall, I highly recommend giving this show a watch if you enjoy problem solving mysteries and don't mind shows that are heavier on the dialogue side of things. If you thought a girl with just her head was scary, then you probably wouldn't want to watch this next show. Dark Gathering is a supernatural horror series with a touch of light-hearted comedy. Our protagonist Keitaro is a college freshman who happens to have a strong aversion to ghosts. Unfortunately for him, he possesses a peculiar abilities that attract spirits, haunting him since he was a child. Eventually, one accident with an evil spirit resulted in an injury on his right hand, with his childhood friend Eiko getting caught in the crossfire as well. This event caused him to become a shut-in, leaving him with poor social skills as he blamed himself for his childhood friend's injury. But things are about to change as Keitaro starts his journey to overcome his fears with the help of his childhood friend. Keitaro takes on a part-time job as his private tutor and his first student happens to be none other than Eiko's cousin, Yohane, a child prodigy who shares an intriguing similarity with Keitaro. She also possesses the ability to see spirits. However, unlike Keitaro, she actively seeks out encounters with these spirits in hopes of finding the ghost responsible for her father's death and mother's disappearance. Together with Eiko, they embark on ghostly adventures, straying further and further from Keitaro's original tutoring role. Dark Gathering weaves an intriguing narrative, gradually unraveling the dark past of Yayoi in various mysterious and unsettling manners. With its blend of supernatural horror and lighthearted comedy, this series provides an exciting exploration of ghost hunting cases. I'm personally intrigued by the unique premise and the chemistry among the trio. The mix of horror and humor also adds an intriguing dynamic to the story. If you're looking for something a bit more action-packed, then I highly recommend Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead. The story follows Akira, a fresh college graduate who lands his dream job at a production company. He's excited and even falls for a coworker named Saori on his first day. But here's the twist. Akira quickly realizes he's working in a terrible black company. The employees are overworked, mistreated, and his crush, Saori, is involved with a stereotypical ugly bastard who also happens to be his higher up. For the next 3 years, Akira's life quickly turns into a soul-sucking routine where he's constantly sleep deprived from forced overworking. But then, one morning, everything changes when Akira wakes up in the middle of a zombie apocalypse. Planes start crashing, explosions happening everywhere, people being chased and killed by zombies. However, despite the grim and horrifying situation, Akira actually bursts into joy as he realizes that he doesn't have to go back to work anymore and is now free to do whatever he wants. The first episode of this series is a roller coaster of emotions, blending the struggles of a toxic workplace with an unexpected zombie twist. The amazing use of color also adds another layer to the storytelling, making it a visually captivating experience. If you're looking for an action-packed and humorous take on the zombie apocalypse genre, definitely give Zom 100 Bucket List of the Dead a watch. It's a unique and thrilling ride that will keep you hooked from beginning till the end. For the mecha show lovers out there, this season we have Synduality Noir. Set in a dystopian future in the year 2222, a mysterious rain has wiped out most of humanity, unleashing human-eating monsters. The remaining humans have established new cities away from these creatures and coexist with AI robots called the Magus. These cities rely on drifters, pilots who venture outside to search for AO crystals in monster-infested areas. So far we've seen that these AI robots primarily assist the pilots during battles against these monsters, though the purpose of the crystals is yet to be explained. During one of these expeditions, our main character Kanata discovers a sleeping AI robot in an abandoned building. He brings her back to town and well, some fan service ensues when he accidentally presses a button that strips off her clothes. However, the girl has lost her memories and doesn't know who she is. Later on, the monsters attack the town and Kanata, though not a drifter himself, tries to defend it. Powerless, he still manages to get into a mecha but struggles to control it properly. Unexpectedly, the AI girl joins him in the mecha's back, empowering him to control it flawlessly and defeat the monsters. The animation of Synduality Noir is surprisingly good, even during the action-packed moments where CGI is heavily utilized. It blends fairly seamlessly with the 2D animation for most scenes. What's also interesting to note is that Bandai Namco actually has a game linked to this show, set 20 years before the events of the anime that's going to come out later on. Overall, I enjoyed the first episode of Synduality Noir and will definitely continue watching to see where it goes. For our final show in this video, we have another anime set in the future where humanoids with artificial intelligence comprise of 10% of the total population. The Gene of I is a thought-provoking series that delves into the realms of sciences and ethics. In this first episode, we are introduced to Hikaru, a doctor who specializes in caring for these humanoids, but also operates as a back alley doctor, assisting with illegal activities involving humanoids. The show delves into the controversial topic of tampering the mind and memory of a person, exploring the moral dilemmas and the consequences associated with this practice. Each episode delves into different situations with different characters, ranging from interpersonal relationships with AI humanoids to making illegal backups of a person's memory to live forever and much more. Overall, the Gene of I offers a unique exploration of science and ethics, tackling themes rarely explored in other anime. The first episode left a lasting impression, which compelled me to ponder the profound questions raised within. If you have an interest in the intersection of science, ethics, and the human experience, this series promises to captivate and challenge your perspectives. Well guys, that is all 26 new series in the summer 2023 anime season covered. Do you agree or disagree with any of my thoughts in this video? Which show is your favorite this season? I'd love to hear your thoughts on the comments down below. Thanks for watching until the end, and with that being said, I will see you all on the next one.